I'm Leah Faulkner, and a question I get a lot is, how the heck could you marry a man 3 times? 3 marriages, 1 man, how do you do that? And then the 3rd marriage was successful, so what was the magic? What happened? The magic in that 3rd marriage was a promise. We ended up in counseling, and the pastor was so precious that helped us. And anyway, he said, I will work with you 2 crazies if you commit to me for 1 year. 1 year to learn to be friends. 1 year. No sex, no living together, just, hi Leah, hi Mike, how are you? Be friends, talk about things, and go on about your life. You can date, you can go to coffee, you can go to dinner, you can do whatever, but you're only friends for 1 year. Well, you can imagine the look on my husband's face. Mike, he said, I'm not doing that. That's ridiculous. We're not kids. And he said no, and then he relented because I said, yes, sign me up. I'll do anything. I mean, this is, you know. So anyway, we did. And for 1 year, almost, we were doing great. About 6 months into it, and then we decided we're both sick of it, tired. We wanted to be together. We wanted to live together. We were done with the silly game. So we were going to go off and we were getting married. I went to Canada with him. We're planning the wedding. And right the night before, we hadn't been together. We had separate rooms. We honored our commitment to Jack, we thought. When we called them to get his blessing, he was totally disappointed and said, I will not give you my blessing. You can't keep a promise, can you? That's what he said to me on the phone. You can't keep a promise, Leah. Your word means nothing. And guess what? Your husband's word means even less. He's, you know, God put him as a leader of your home. How can you look up to him? How can you trust him? Anyway, it was awful. We ended up in a huge fight, blew up our whole thing. I took my new dress and all my stuff and went home. We didn't talk for 6 weeks. I went back to Pastor Jack and begged him for his forgiveness, and he was wonderful. And then Mike eventually came back too, and long story short, 6 months more of this grueling nightmare, but we learned a lot. God showed us so much during that time. We committed that promise, we finished it, we got married, and it was beyond beautiful. It was something we both learned. Our promise means something in our life. Aren't you disappointed when you meet people and they say, oh, I promise I'll do this? Or your husband says, oh, I'll promise this or promise that, and you're let down by betrayal. So that promise is a gift, and that's a gift of God. The magic of the 3rd marriage was amazing. Finally, we got in a place where we not only love each other, and we had this great passion for one another, but we really learned to respect each other. And that was something new. The other 2 marriages didn't have that, not really. This one did. And this one was God-centered. There was something much more spiritual, and not in a phony way. It was just very real. A blessing, God's blessing on our lives, in our community, in our relationship with our son, just in so many ways. And we were just living our life, and it was amazing. And I was so grateful, and spoke about it and spoke in groups about our marriages, our life. But Mike became ill in the last few years, and it was a dreadful illness. It just, he had a inflammation of the brain. He had an accident. On one of our trips, he had a horrible accident. Mike was always on the cutting edge anyway, and he this time it took him. His famous last words were, give it all you've got. That's what he said. And it took him, and honestly did. But anyway, so we had to learn some new things. Had we not had that spiritual connection, we never would have made it through these last 4 years. There would have been no way, because he wasn't himself and I would have been angry. I don't know, it was just God that led us through this, and he did. So grief, people say, how do you get through grief? What are the words? Who knows till you've experienced it? And everyone around you, my parents passed, that was difficult. Lost one of my best friends, very difficult. But losing Mike, and I can't even imagine what some of you have known. But I will tell you, there's the other side of it, and you can get through the other side. And that's when that faith comes in. That's when the promise of God comes in. We're only allowed a certain amount of time in our lives. Each one of us are destined for so many days on this earth. Mike's time was up, and it's a season. And I'm just grateful that I could have been there, that I got to be a part of that and got to be a part of the ending of his life. But there's more. I have a destiny to fulfill, and I have a promise to God that I need to keep. And that's something we all need to have. We're not done. We're not done till he says we're done. So no matter what you're going through, I don't care if it's a divorce, I don't care if it's any hateful, horrible thing the enemy is trying to do to you, loss of money, brokenness, trust me, there's more. You just have to know that and be grateful and be thankful and say that. Thank you, God, for the blessings that you've given me. Thank you for the favor in my life. Thank you that I'm going to move forward and that I'm going to honor you. I have more days, and that's what I want to do now. I just want to share that hope and love and gratefulness so that other lives can be changed as well. That's all I have to say.